My name is Simon Grady, and I'm about to tell you how I dismantled my wife's entire existence in 7 days. Not with violence, not with lawyers, but with something far more devastating: the truth, delivered with surgical precision. It started on a Tuesday night in October. I was running late from a technical writing gig. Some pharmaceutical company needed their user manual translated from corporate gibberish into actual English. Claire had texted me around 6. Working late? Don't wait up. Standard stuff. My wife was a PR manager at Larkin Industries, always grinding for that next promotion. I pulled up to her office tower around 9:30, thinking I'd surprise her with takeout from that Thai place she liked. The security guard at the front desk, a heavy-set guy named Frank, gave me a weird look when I walked in. "Hey, Mr. Grady," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "You here for the celebration?" "What celebration?" Frank shifted uncomfortably. "Well, your wife's boss just proposed to her. There's probably going to be a wedding soon." The words hit me like a brick to the chest, but I kept my face neutral. That's news to me. Usually, I'm the last to know about these things. Tonight, I guess I'm the first. I could hear voices from the executive floor, laughter, champagne glasses clinking. Frank was watching me carefully, probably expecting me to explode or break down. Instead, I pulled out my phone. "Mind if I take a look?" I asked, gesturing toward the elevator. "I don't think that's such a good idea. Frank, my wife just got engaged to another man while she's still married to me. I think I've earned the right to witness this historic moment." He reluctantly let me up. The elevator ride felt like it lasted forever. When the doors opened on the 20th floor, I could see straight into the conference room through the glass walls. There she was, my wife of 8 years, wearing the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, accepting a ring from Brad Larkin, her 44-year-old CEO boss. I stayed in the shadows and recorded everything. Brad's speech about finding his soulmate, Claire's tearful yes, the applause from her colleagues, the champagne toast, the kiss that lasted way too long for a first-time proposal. Instead of storming in like some jealous husband from a soap opera, I uploaded the footage to a cloud drive and sent an anonymous tip to HR through a burner app I'd downloaded months ago for work research. Then I went back downstairs. "Everything okay?" Frank asked. "Perfect," I said. "Just perfect." I was halfway to my car when my phone buzzed. A text from Lisa, Claire's best friend. "Congrats, babe. He's so hot. Can't wait to be your maid of honor again." Except she'd sent it to me by mistake. That was the moment I stopped being her husband and started being her reckoning. I drove home to our Victorian house on Maple Street, the one we'd bought when we still believed in forever. Claire wouldn't be back for hours. She was probably celebrating her engagement at some fancy restaurant, planning her new life while I paid the mortgage on our old one. The house felt different now. Every family photo on the mantel looked like evidence of a lie. Every piece of furniture we'd picked out together seemed like a prop in an elaborate deception. I made myself a sandwich and started thinking like the technical writer I was, methodical, logical, focused on the details everyone else missed. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Claire had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter, still logged into everything. She'd grown careless over the past few months, probably too distracted by her secret romance to worry about operational security. I'd taught her about digital privacy years ago, back when we trusted each other. Now that knowledge was about to bite her in the rear. Her email was a goldmine. Messages from Brad going back 6 months, starting professional and gradually turning intimate. Hotel receipts from business trips that weren't in her work calendar. Photos I definitely wasn't supposed to see. And most interesting of all, a private chat thread with Lisa where they discussed Plan B. What to do if I became a problem. "Simon's so clueless," Claire had written just last week. "He actually thinks I'm working late when I'm with Brad." It's almost sad. Lisa's response, just don't let him find out before you're ready. You know how he gets when he's angry. How I get when I'm angry. They had no idea. I copied everything to an encrypted drive, then called my old friend Pete Morrison. Pete used to be a cop before he started his private security business. More importantly, he owed me a favor from when I'd helped him set up his company's website. Simon? It's almost midnight, man. I need eyes on a sleaze bag and a miracle before breakfast, I said. You want reconnaissance or revenge? Yes. Pete laughed. All right, I'm listening. I gave him the basics. Cheating wife, arrogant boss, secret engagement, evidence already secured. Pete whistled low. Brad Larkin? I know that name. Guy's got a reputation around town, affairs, NDAs, payoffs to keep things quiet. You sure you want to go down this road? The road chose me, Pete. I'm just deciding which direction to walk. Fair enough. What do you need? Everything you can find on Larkin. Financial records, previous relationships, business dealings, parking tickets, library fines. I want to know what he had for breakfast and whether he tipped the waitress. And your wife? Leave Claire to me. I know her better than she knows herself. After hanging up with Pete, I drove to Murphy's Tavern, a dive bar downtown where the bartender, Rachel, had been serving drinks and collecting secrets for 20 years. She was the kind of woman who remembered everyone's order and everyone's business. Simon Grady, she said when I walked in. You look like a man with problems. You could say that. Whiskey, neat. She poured the drink and leaned against the bar. Heard your wife's been coming in here lately. Different crowd than usual for her. Oh? She's been talking about someone named Brad. Real excited about him. They think nobody listens to the bartender, but I listen to everything. Part of the job. I sipped my whiskey and let Rachel talk. Apparently Claire had been meeting with Lisa and her other work friends, discussing her exit strategy from our marriage. They'd been planning this for months, waiting for the right moment to make their move. She seemed real confident about something, Rachel continued, like she had it all figured out. Said she wouldn't have to worry about money or the house or any of that messy divorce stuff. Interesting. Thanks, Rachel. Whatever you're planning, Simon, be smart about it. Revenge is like cooking. Timing is everything. I finished my drink and headed home. Claire's car was in the driveway, and I could see lights on in our bedroom. Time for the performance of my life. She was in the bathroom, washing off her makeup when I came upstairs. Hey, honey, she called out. Did you wait up? Nope, I said, sitting on the bed. Just came home to recharge my batteries, unlike some people who apparently have energy to spare. She emerged from the bathroom in her robe, looking radiant. Guilty people often glowed with their secrets, I'd noticed. How was your meeting? I asked. Oh, you know, same old corporate stuff. Brad had some big announcement about company restructuring. Really boring. Sounds like it. You seem pretty happy for someone who just sat through a boring corporate meeting. Claire shrugged. I might be getting that promotion I've been working toward. Nothing's official yet, but Brad seems optimistic. I nodded and smiled, playing the supportive husband. That's great, honey. You deserve it. If only she knew what she actually deserved. The next morning, Claire left for work, humming a song I didn't recognize. She kissed my cheek at the door, the same casual affection she'd shown me for years, except now it felt like a performance. Everything about her felt calculated, rehearsed. Working late again tonight, she said. Big project with Brad. Of course. I'll probably be out too. Pete wants help with some computer stuff. After she left, I got to work. First, I activated the Find My Device feature on an old phone of hers that was still connected to our family plan. She'd forgotten about it, but the location services were still active. Then I placed a small GPS tracker, the kind worried parents use to monitor teenage drivers, under her car's rear bumper. Nothing illegal, since my name was on the registration. Pete called around noon with his preliminary report on Brad Larkin. "Your instincts were right," he said. "This guy's a walking lawsuit waiting to happen. 3 former employees have filed complaints about inappropriate conduct. 2 settled out of court with NDAs. His ex-wife took him for half his assets in their divorce, and she's still got lawyers watching him." "What kind of complaints?" "Harassment, abuse of power, creating hostile work environments. The usual powerful man with no boundaries routine. He's smart enough to cover his tracks, but not smart enough to change his behavior." "Perfect. What about the company?" "Larkin Industries has been struggling lately. Stocks down, boards getting restless. They can't afford another scandal, especially involving the CEO." I spent the afternoon crafting my next move. Using the anonymous email account I'd created, I sent a detailed report to Larkin Industries' HR department, complete with timestamps, location data, and carefully edited screenshots from Claire's emails. Nothing explicit enough to be considered revenge adult material, but damning enough to raise serious questions about workplace conduct. The key was plausible deniability. Everything I sent could have come from a concerned employee, a whistleblower, or even a rival company. I made sure to include details that only an insider would know, which would make HR take it seriously while protecting my own involvement. By 5 o'clock, I was positioned at a coffee shop across from Larkin Industries, watching the building through the window. Claire and Brad emerged together at 6:15, walking close, but not touching. They were being careful in public, but their body language screamed intimacy. I followed them to Bistro Laurent, an upscale French place downtown. They sat at a corner table, Brad's hand covering Claire's across the white tablecloth. From my position at the bar, I could see them toasting with champagne, probably celebrating their successful deception. That's when I decided to make my presence known. I walked over to their table, carrying my coffee cup. Brad saw me first, his face shifting from surprise to annoyance. "Simon," Claire said, her voice tight. "What are you doing here?" "Funny story," I said, sitting down uninvited. "I was having coffee across the street when I saw my wife through the window. Thought I'd come say hello." I looked at Brad. "You must be the famous boss I've heard so much about." Brad extended his hand with the kind of fake smile rich men perfected in business school. "Brad Larkin. Claire's told me a lot about you." "I'll bet she has." I shook his hand, squeezing just a little too hard. "Though apparently not everything, since she forgot to mention your proposal last night." The color drained from Claire's face. Brad's smile faltered. "I'm sorry," Brad said. "Oh, come on. The ring, the champagne, the speech about finding your soulmate. Frank, the security guard, was very helpful with the details." I leaned back in my chair. Must be nerve-wracking proposing to a married woman. Never seen a man propose to my wife before. I stood up, pretending to stumble slightly, and, accidentally, knocked over Brad's water glass. The ice water splashed across his expensive suit and onto his lap. "Oops, sorry about that," I said, grabbing napkins. "Must be the nerves. This whole situation has me a little shaky." Brad jumped up, cursing under his breath as he tried to dry off his suit. Other diners were starting to stare. Claire looked mortified. "We should probably discuss this privately," Brad said through gritted teeth. "Nothing private about it now," I replied cheerfully. "But hey, congratulations on the engagement. I'm sure you'll be very happy together." I left them sitting there, Brad dripping wet and Claire pale as paper. The evening was off to an excellent start. That night, Claire confronted me as soon as she got home. "Are you following me?" she demanded. I was sitting in my favorite chair, reading a book like nothing had happened. "You're not that interesting," I said without looking up. "Simon, I'm serious. What you did tonight was embarrassing and inappropriate." "What I did? I said hello to my wife and her boss. Since when is that inappropriate?" "You know exactly what you did." I finally looked at her, letting my mask slip just a little. Yeah, Claire, I do know exactly what I did. The question is, do you know what you're doing? She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how much I knew, how much I'd figured out. The smart play would have been to come clean right then, to confess everything and try to salvage what was left of our marriage. Instead, she chose to keep lying. I don't know what you're implying, but Brad is my boss and nothing more. If you can't handle me having a professional relationship with a male colleague, that's your problem, not mine. You're absolutely right, I said, returning to my book. My mistake. Professional relationships are very important. She went upstairs, probably to call Brad or Lisa or both. I stayed in my chair, planning the next phase of their destruction. Thursday morning brought the first signs that my anonymous tip to HR was bearing fruit. Claire came downstairs looking frazzled, checking her phone every few seconds. Everything okay? I asked, buttering my toast. Just work stuff. Some ridiculous investigation about workplace conduct, probably just corporate covering their assets. Sounds serious. It's not. Just annoying. She grabbed her coffee and purse. I'll be late tonight. Brad and I need to deal with this nonsense. After she left, I called Pete. Phase 2 is a go. What did you find on Larkin's personal habits? Guy's got expensive tastes. Drives a BMW M5, parks it in the executive garage like it's his personal throne, lives in that new luxury complex on Harbor Street, penthouse level, likes to show off his wealth. Perfect. Time to make his life a little less comfortable. That afternoon, while Claire and Brad were presumably dealing with HR questions, I paid a visit to the Larkin Industries parking garage. Security was lighter than expected. Just keycard access and a few cameras that didn't cover every angle. Brad's BMW was parked in his reserved spot, gleaming black paint reflecting the fluorescent lights. I'd brought a small toolkit, the kind any handyman would carry. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would cause real damage, just enough to send a message. I let the air out of all 4 tires, not slashing them, just deflating them slowly. Then I used a key to scratch a simple message into the paint on the driver's side door. Thought you liked surprises, Brad. For the final touch, I left a small package on his windshield. Inside was a cheap fish from the grocery store, wrapped in newspaper with a note. Thought you liked sushi, Brad. This one's on me. The smell would be interesting by the time he found it. I was back home by 4, working on a legitimate client project when my phone buzzed. Text from Claire. Someone vandalized Brad's car. This is getting out of hand. I texted back. That's terrible. Any idea who would do something like that? No, but the police are involved now. Good. Let them waste their time looking for evidence they'd never find. That evening, I implemented the next phase of my plan. Using our joint banking account access, I transferred our savings into a separate account that only I controlled. Technically legal, since both our names were on the original account, but it would definitely get Claire's attention. I also called our credit card companies and reported the cards as potentially compromised, requesting new ones to be sent to my office address instead of our home. Again, perfectly legal, since I was an authorized user on all the accounts. The final move was changing our home security system password. Claire would find herself locked out of her own house, which seemed fitting since she'd already locked me out of her life. My phone rang at 8:30, Claire predictably furious. What did you do to our accounts? Protected our assets, I said calmly. Given the recent security concerns at your office, I thought it was prudent to secure our finances. You can't just freeze me out of our own money. I didn't freeze anything, I secured it. Big difference. Simon, this is insane. You're acting paranoid and controlling. Am I? Or am I acting like a husband who's starting to pay attention to details he should have noticed months ago? She hung up on me. An hour later, I heard her car in the driveway, followed by the sound of her trying to get into the house. The security system beeped 3 times, then went into lockdown mode. She tried calling me, but I let it go to voicemail. Eventually, she rang the doorbell. "Really?" she said when I opened the door. "You changed the locks?" "Security code, actually. Can't be too careful these days." I stepped aside to let her in. "How was your evening with Brad? Did he enjoy his surprise?" Her eyes narrowed. "You vandalized his car." "That's a serious accusation. Do you have any proof?" "I know it was you. Knowing and proving are two different things. Ask any lawyer." Claire pushed past me into the living room. "This stops now, Simon. Whatever game you think you're playing, it ends tonight." "Game? I'm not playing a game, Claire. I'm just finally paying attention to what's been happening in my own life." She stared at me, and I could see her trying to decide how much to admit, how much to deny. The smart move would have been to confess everything and beg for forgiveness. Instead, she doubled down on the lies. "You're being paranoid and jealous over nothing. Brad is my boss, that's all. If you can't handle me having a successful career, then maybe we need to talk about what that means for our marriage." "Maybe we do," I agreed. "But not tonight. Tonight, I think you should call Lisa and see if you can stay at her place, until you figure out what you really want." The suggestion hit her like a slap. She'd expected me to back down, to apologize for being suspicious, to return to being the oblivious husband who paid the bills while she planned her exit strategy. "Fine," she said finally. "Maybe some space would be good for both of us." She went upstairs to pack a bag. While she was gone, I texted Lisa from Claire's phone, which she'd left on the kitchen counter. "Can I stay with you tonight? Simon's being impossible." Lisa's response came immediately. "Of course, babe. Brad's probably worried sick about you." I deleted both messages before Claire came back downstairs. "I'll be at Lisa's," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Tell her I said hello," I replied, "and give my regards to Brad." After she left, I poured myself a whiskey and sat in my chair, planning the next day's activities. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to tighten the noose around their perfect little romance. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete. "Larkin's been asking questions about private investigators. Word is he's spooked about something. Want me to back off?" I texted back, "Absolutely not. If he's spooked, we're on the right track. Time to turn up the heat." The game was just getting started. Friday morning brought news that made my coffee taste even better than usual. Pete called with an update that had me grinning like a fool. "HR suspended Brad pending a full investigation," he said. "Apparently they received some very detailed anonymous reports about inappropriate workplace conduct. The board's freaking out about liability issues." "How detailed?" "Detailed enough that they're bringing in an outside firm to investigate. Your wife's promotion has been put on indefinite hold, and they're reviewing all of Brad's recent personnel decisions." I leaned back in my kitchen chair, watching the morning sun stream through the windows of the house Claire had abandoned the night before. "What about the vandalism report?" "Police filed it, but without witnesses or evidence, it's just another case of expensive car meets petty criminal. They've got bigger problems to worry about." After hanging up with Pete, I drove to Murphy's Tavern for lunch. Rachel was working the day shift, and the place was nearly empty except for a few regulars nursing their afternoon drinks. "You look pleased with yourself," Rachel observed, sliding a beer across the bar. "Just enjoying the sunshine," I said. "Beautiful day for new beginnings." "Speaking of new beginnings, your wife was in here last night with her friends. They were talking about some kind of wedding." My beer paused halfway to my lips. "Wedding?" "Yeah, something about a private ceremony next weekend. Small affair, family and close friends only. Lisa was going on about bridesmaid dresses and flower arrangements. So they were moving faster than I'd expected. Claire and Brad were planning to make their relationship official, while her marriage to me was still legally intact. Bold move, but also incredibly stupid." "Did they mention where this wedding might take place?" Rachel's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Riverside Gardens, that fancy venue by the waterfront. Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock. I finished my beer and left Rachel a generous tip. Thanks for the information. Whatever you're planning, Simon, make it count. The rest of Friday was spent in careful preparation. I created a new anonymous email account and began crafting messages to every person who would be attending Claire and Brad's secret wedding. The guest list wasn't hard to figure out. Claire's family, Brad's family, their work colleagues, and their mutual friends. The message was simple and devastating. Thought you should know that the bride is still legally married to her first husband. Attached are photos from their recent engagement celebration, along with some interesting communications about their exit strategy from her current marriage. Congratulations on supporting adultery and fraud. I attached the video I'd recorded of Brad's proposal, along with selected screenshots of Claire's emails and text messages. Nothing explicit, nothing that could get me in legal trouble, but damning enough to destroy any illusions about their romantic fairy tale. The emails went out Saturday morning at 6 a.m., time to arrive just as people were getting ready for the wedding. By 9 a.m., my phone was buzzing with activity. Not calls to me directly, but I could monitor the chaos through social media and the various group chats Claire had foolishly included me in months ago. Lisa's frantic message to the bridesmaids, "Emergency! Wedding might be postponed. Don't leave for the venue yet." Brad's sister, to the family group chat, "Is it true that she's still married to someone else?" The venue coordinator to Claire, "We've received some disturbing information about your event today. Please call immediately." But the real masterpiece came from Brad's ex-wife, Jennifer, who apparently received my anonymous package and decided to share her thoughts publicly on social media. Interesting to see my ex-husband is up to his old tricks. Some women never learn. Good luck with that, Claire. The post included photos of Brad and Claire from their recent dinner dates, along with Jennifer's own commentary about Brad's history of workplace affairs and manipulative behavior. By noon, the wedding was in full collapse. The venue had canceled, citing concerns about hosting an event that might involve adultery. Half the guests had withdrawn their attendance. The other half were demanding explanations that Claire and Brad couldn't provide without admitting their deception. I drove to Riverside Gardens anyway, curious to see the aftermath in person. The parking lot was nearly empty except for a few cars belonging to the venue staff. Through the windows, I could see Claire and Brad in heated conversation with the event coordinator, their hands gesturing frantically as they tried to salvage their special day. That's when I decided to make my entrance. I walked into the venue wearing my best suit, carrying a small wrapped gift. The conversation stopped when they saw me. "Simon," Claire said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are you doing here?" "Wedding gift," I said, holding up the package. "Wouldn't want to miss such a special occasion." Brad stepped forward, his face red with anger and embarrassment. "You did this. You ruined everything." "I didn't ruin anything," I replied calmly. "I just shared some information with people who deserve to know the truth. If that ruined your plans, maybe your plans weren't very good to begin with." The venue coordinator, a middle-aged woman who'd probably seen every kind of wedding drama imaginable, cleared her throat. "I'm sorry, but we really can't host this event under these circumstances. Our reputation—" "We understand," Claire interrupted. "We'll find somewhere else." "Where?" I asked, genuinely curious. Most reputable venues do background checks on their clients. Word travels fast in the wedding industry. Brad took a step toward me, his fists clenched. For a moment, I thought he might actually try to hit me. Instead, he pointed his finger at my chest. "You're going to pay for this," he said through gritted teeth. "With what? My good reputation, my stable marriage, my successful career?" I smiled. "Oh wait, those are your problems now." I set the gift on the nearest table and headed for the door. "Enjoy the rest of your special day. I'm sure you'll remember it forever." As I walked back to my car, I could hear them arguing behind me, their voices echoing through the empty venue. Claire was crying, Brad was cursing, and their perfect romance was crumbling in real time. The gift I'd left behind contained a single item, a framed photo of Claire and me from our own wedding 8 years ago, with a note attached. Hope it was worth everything. Sunday morning brought an unexpected visitor. I was in my kitchen, enjoying coffee and reading the news online, when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see Claire standing on my porch, looking like she hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk," she said when I opened the door. "Do we? I thought you were staying at Lisa's indefinitely." "Let me in, Simon. Please." I stepped aside, and she walked into what used to be our shared living room. Everything looked the same, but the dynamic had shifted completely. This was my house now, my space, and she was just a visitor. "The wedding was canceled," she said, as if I didn't already know. "I heard. Sorry about that." She turned to face me, and I could see the desperation in her eyes. "You can't keep doing this. The car vandalism, the financial accounts, the anonymous messages, it has to stop. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. I know it was you. The timing, the information, the way you've been acting, it's obvious." I sat down in my chair, the same one where I'd been reading when she came home from her engagement celebration. "Prove it." "I don't need to prove it, I know." "Knowing and proving are two different things, Claire. You taught me that, remember? All those times you knew you were working late, knew you were having innocent business meetings, knew you weren't lying to my face every single day for months." She flinched at that, but pressed on. "I want a divorce. Clean, simple, no fault. We split everything 50-50 and go our separate ways." "Interesting proposal. What does Brad think about that plan?" "Brad's not part of this conversation." "Isn't he?" "Because from where I'm sitting, Brad is the whole reason we're having this conversation. If you'd been honest with me 6 months ago, we could have handled this like adults. Instead, you chose deception, manipulation, and fraud." "Fraud? Planning to marry another man while still legally married to me? Yeah, that's fraud. Ask any lawyer." Claire's composure finally cracked. "Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I've been seeing Brad. Yes, we're in love. Yes, I was planning to leave you. But I was trying to do it in a way that wouldn't destroy everything we'd built together. By lying and cheating and making me look like an idiot. By trying to minimize the damage." I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "Minimize the damage? Claire, you were planning to divorce me, marry my replacement, and somehow keep it all quiet and civilized. Did you really think I was going to just smile and wish you well?" She sat down on the couch, suddenly looking exhausted. I hoped you'd understand eventually, that you'd see we weren't happy anymore and let me go." "We weren't happy because you were living a double life. You can't fix a marriage by having an affair, Claire. That's not how it works." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Claire pulled out her phone and showed me something that made my chest tighten with anger. "I filed for a restraining order yesterday," she said quietly. "Stalking, harassment, financial abuse, emotional manipulation. My lawyer says I have a strong case." "Your lawyer?" "Brad's lawyer, actually. He's been helping me document your behavior over the past week." I stared at her, genuinely impressed by the audacity. "So let me understand this correctly. You and your boyfriend consulted a lawyer about how to frame me for stalking you while you were cheating on me? You've been following me, vandalizing Brad's property, freezing our bank accounts. I've been protecting myself from a wife who was planning to abandon me for another man. Everything I did was legal and justified. The judge might see it differently." That's when I realized Claire and Brad had made a critical error. They'd assumed I was acting emotionally, lashing out without a plan. They thought they could control the narrative by painting me as an unstable, jealous husband who couldn't accept reality. They had no idea how carefully I'd documented everything. "You know what, Claire, you're right. Let's let a judge decide." I stood up and walked to my desk, pulling out a thick folder. I've got copies of every email, every text message, every hotel receipt, every lie you've told over the past 6 months. I've got video evidence of Brad proposing to my wife in his office. I've got witness statements from people who heard you planning your exit strategy. I've got financial records showing how you were planning to hide assets during our divorce. I dropped the folder on the coffee table between us. You want to go to court? Let's go to court. Let's see how a judge feels about adultery, fraud, and conspiracy to commit marriage fraud. Claire's face went pale as she flipped through the documents. How did you get all this? Same way you got evidence of my stalking. I paid attention and documented everything. I sat back down, feeling calmer than I had in days. The difference is, my evidence is real. She closed the folder and looked at me with something that might have been respect. What do you want? I want you to withdraw the restraining order. I want you to admit publicly that our marriage ended because of your affair. I want Brad to resign from his position at Larkin Industries, and I want both of you to stay away from me while we handle the divorce through proper legal channels. And if we don't, then I release everything to the media, your families, your employers, and anyone else who might find it interesting. Brad's already hanging by a thread at his company. One more scandal, and he's finished. As for you, I shrugged. Good luck finding another PR job after everyone knows how you handle your personal relationships. Claire stood up slowly, leaving the folder on the table. You've changed, Simon. This isn't the man I married. You're right, I said. The man you married trusted you. He believed your lies and ignored the obvious signs that his wife was betraying him. That man was a fool. I walked her to the door. This man learns from his mistakes. After she left, I called Pete to give him an update. Sounds like they're getting desperate, he said. Desperate people make stupid decisions. Let's hope so. What's the latest on Brad's situation at work? Board meeting tomorrow morning. Word is they're discussing his future with the company. The harassment investigation isn't going well for him, and the publicity from the wedding disaster isn't helping. Perfect. One more push should do it. That evening, I crafted one final anonymous message, this one directed at the Larkin Industries Board of Directors. It contained a comprehensive timeline of Brad's affair with Claire, including evidence that he'd used company resources to facilitate their relationship. Hotel bookings charged to corporate accounts, business trips that coincided with their personal meetings, emails sent during work hours planning their secret romance. The message concluded with a simple observation. A CEO who can't maintain ethical boundaries in his personal life probably can't be trusted to maintain them in business either. I sent it Sunday night, time to arrive in their inboxes just before Monday's board meeting. By Tuesday afternoon, the local business journal reported that Brad Larkin had resigned to pursue other opportunities. The company's stock price actually went up on the news. Claire called me that evening, her voice hollow with defeat. He's gone, she said. They fired him. I heard. Sorry about that. No, you're not. You're right. I'm not sorry at all. What happens now? Now? Now you figure out what your life looks like without me and without him. Good luck with that, Claire. You're going to need it. I hung up and poured myself a whiskey, watching the sun set through my kitchen window. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight I was content to sit in my own house, in my own chair, master of my own destiny once again. The trip was canceled. So was her future. Wednesday evening found me at Murphy's Tavern, celebrating with Pete and Rachel. The place was busier than usual, filled with the kind of working-class crowd that appreciated a good underdog story. So let me get this straight, Rachel said, refilling my beer. Your wife cheats on you with her boss, they plan a secret wedding while she's still married to you, and now he's unemployed and she's facing a messy divorce with no financial support? That's the basic outline, I confirmed. Pete raised his glass. To Simon Grady, who proved that the best revenge is a dish served with a side of public humiliation. The toast was interrupted by Maya, one of Claire's former co-workers, who'd apparently heard about my presence at the bar through the local gossip network. "Simon!" she called out, approaching our table with a drink in her hand. "I heard about what happened with Claire and Brad. I just wanted you to know that not everyone at the office was fooled by their act." "Oh?" Some of us knew what was going on. The late-night meetings, the business trips that weren't really business, the way they looked at each other during staff meetings. Lisa was helping them cover it up, but it was pretty obvious if you paid attention. This was interesting news. Lisa was involved? Oh, yeah. She was like their personal coordinator, making excuses for Claire when she needed to sneak away, providing alibis, even booking hotel rooms for them using her own credit card so it wouldn't show up on company records. I glanced at Pete, who was grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "Maya, would you be willing to put that information in writing?" "Absolutely. Lisa's been throwing people under the bus for years to protect herself. About time someone returned the favor." After Maya left, Pete leaned across the table. "You know what this means, right? That Lisa's been an accessory to fraud and conspiracy? That you've got one more domino to knock down." Thursday morning, I received a call from Mrs. Dorsey, my elderly neighbor who'd been watching the drama unfold from her front porch for the past week. "Simon, dear," she said in her crackling voice, "I thought you should know that your wife came by this morning with a moving truck. She's taking furniture from the house." "Did she have a key?" "She broke the lock on the back door. I called the police, but they said it was a domestic matter and they couldn't get involved without a court order." I thanked Mrs. Dorsey and drove home immediately. Sure enough, Claire's car was in the driveway along with a small moving truck. Through the windows, I could see her and Lisa carrying boxes and furniture out of my house. I parked across the street and called the police myself, reporting a break-in in progress. Then I called Pete. "Bring a camera," I said. "Claire just made her biggest mistake yet." Pete arrived just as the police pulled up. 2 officers approached the house while I stayed by my car, documenting everything with my phone. "Ma'am, we received a report of a break-in at this address," I heard one officer say to Claire. "This is my house," she replied. "I'm just collecting my belongings. Do you have a key or permission to be here?" That's when I approached. "Officers, I'm Simon Grady. This is my house, and I didn't give anyone permission to break in." Claire's face went red. "Simon, don't be ridiculous. Half of this stuff is mine. Then you should have asked for it through your lawyer instead of breaking into my house." The officers looked uncomfortable, clearly not wanting to get involved in a domestic dispute, but the broken lock was evidence of forced entry, which made it a criminal matter. "Ma'am, if you don't have permission to be here, and you broke the lock to gain entry, that's considered breaking and entering," one officer explained. "But I live here. According to the property records, only Mr. Grady's name is on the deed," the other officer said, checking his tablet. "And you don't appear to have a current address at this location." Lisa, who'd been standing by the truck trying to look invisible, finally spoke up. "This is insane. They're married." "Separated," I corrected. "She moved out last week and has been staying with friends. I changed the locks for security reasons, which is my right as the property owner." The officers asked Claire and Lisa to return any items they'd already loaded into the truck, then escorted them off the property with a warning about trespassing. I made sure to get the incident report number for my records. After they left, I called Claire. "Breaking and entering, Claire? Really? I just wanted my clothes and personal items." "Then you should have called and asked, like a civilized person. You wouldn't have let me in." "You're probably right about that. But now you've got a police record to go along with your unemployment and your failed relationship. How's that working out for you?" She hung up on me, but I wasn't finished yet. Friday afternoon, I implemented the final phase of my plan. Using the information Maya had provided about Lisa's involvement in the affair, I crafted a detailed report for Lisa's employer, a local marketing firm that prided itself on ethical business practices. The report outlined how Lisa had used company resources and time to facilitate an extramarital affair, including using her corporate credit cards to book hotel rooms and lying to clients about her availability while she provided alibis for Claire's deceptions. I also sent copies to several of Lisa's clients, along with a note suggesting they might want to reconsider working with someone who had such flexible relationships with honesty and professional ethics. By Monday, Lisa had been fired from her job and was facing potential legal action from her former employer for misuse of company resources. That evening, I was back at Murphy's Tavern when Claire walked in. She looked terrible, exhausted, defeated, wearing clothes that suggested she'd been sleeping in her car or on someone's couch. The entire bar went quiet when they saw her. Rachel stopped pouring drinks. Pete put down his pool cue. Even the regulars at the bar turned to watch what would happen next. Claire walked straight to my table, her eyes blazing with anger and desperation. "Are you satisfied now?" she demanded, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Brad's career is ruined, Lisa's lost everything, and I'm facing bankruptcy and homelessness. Is this what you wanted?" I looked up at her calmly, taking a sip of my beer before responding. What I wanted was a wife who wouldn't lie to me, cheat on me, and plan to abandon me for another man. What I wanted was honesty, loyalty, and respect. I stood up, facing her directly. What I got was betrayal, deception, and fraud. So I gave you exactly what you gave me. Nothing. I loved him. And I loved you. The difference is, I was faithful to the person I loved. Claire's composure finally shattered completely. She started crying, not the elegant tears of a wronged woman, but the ugly, desperate sobs of someone who'd lost everything and had no one left to blame but herself. "You've destroyed my entire life," she whispered. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, a photo I'd been carrying for days. It was the picture from our wedding, the same one I'd left at the venue during their canceled ceremony. "Hope it was worth everything," I said, handing it to her. She took the photo with shaking hands, stared at it for a moment, then tore it in half and threw the pieces on the floor. "Go to hell, Simon." "I've been there, Claire. It's the place where you find out your wife is planning to marry another man while she's still married to you. But I'm not there anymore." She turned and ran from the bar, pushing past the crowd that had gathered to watch our final confrontation. Through the windows, I could see her getting into a beat-up car that probably belonged to whatever friend was still willing to help her. The bar erupted in applause and cheers. Someone bought me a drink. Rachel came over and squeezed my shoulder. "That was beautiful, Simon. Absolutely beautiful." Pete raised his glass again. "To Simon Grady, who proved that sometimes the good guys do win." I picked up the torn pieces of our wedding photo and threw them in the trash, then walked outside into the cool evening air. The city lights twinkled around me, and for the first time in months, I felt completely free. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This isn't over." I deleted the message without responding. As far as I was concerned, it was over. Claire had made her choices, and now she was living with the consequences. Brad had made his choices, and his career was finished. Lisa had made her choices, and her reputation was destroyed. I walked to my car, got in, and drove home to my house now, legally and completely. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new possibilities. But tonight, I was content to sit in my chair, in my living room, master of my own destiny once again. The trip was canceled. So was her future, and I was finally free to plan my own.